Who's ready to make their own sourdough starter? You guys have been asking, so of course, give them what they want. I'm gonna deliver, so we are gonna make a sourdough starter together from scratch. So you only need a few things to make a sourdough starter. One being a clean glass jar. It could be any glass jar. I have some great ones linked on my Amazon storefront. You can use a ball jar. You can use one of these with the little claspy dealies. You can use an old spaghetti sauce jar, an old pickle jar, as long as it's really clean. But you just need a glass jar with a lid, one that can be on there loosely. You need some room temperature filtered water. I aim to not go for tap water because of the contaminants and chlorine in tap water. So I go for filtered water. Bottled water is good. Room temperature is best. You don't want to go with cold. And then some bread flour, unbleached bread flour. I also have made a starter with unbleached all-purpose flour before. I tend to lean towards bread flour for this. You can also use einkorn, rye, wheat if you prefer. But today, I'm just gonna go use bread flour. And then you need either a wooden spoon or a spatula to mix it up. So let's get into it. If you are new here, I figured I would introduce you really quick to my gorgeous sourdough starter. This is Eve. I made her myself a couple of years ago. She's robust and beautiful and has been the mother of every single loaf of sourdough bread that I have made. She's gone through the start of my journey all the way to baking up to 60 loaves a weekend for customers. So she is amazing. I'm so proud of her. It is such an amazing feeling knowing that I made her myself. I'm in the process of dehydrating her to be able to ship and share with you, but I also encourage you to try to make your own. I love reaching outside my comfort zone, and I think you should too. So this is my big girl. You'll see a lot of her as you are part of our community here, and let's make one of your own. For me, I am not very technical with my sourdough starter anymore, but when it was at the beginning, I definitely was. I measured out everything to make sure I was doing it right. This is new for most of you, I assume. So we are gonna start by measuring, and then as we get our sourdough starter established, I'm gonna also teach you how to just measure with your heart based off of the consistency of your starter. But for now, we are going to do it by measurement. So I think, because I already have a little guy going in a ball glass, so I think I'm gonna use this Fido glass jar. I love this one. It's got a nice little clasp lid, works for me, and I like the wide mouth on it. So we are going to take today 1 cup of flour. Now I am following along on the sourdough starter guidelines that I made for free. I have it linked in my bio. So if you want to go download that so that you can follow along and have like written out instructions on how to do this as you're watching my video, then it's free, it's in my bio. But that's how I am going to go along and show you how to do this. So we are going to take 1 cup of flour. This is a 1/4 cup, so I'm gonna do 4 of them. This is the biggest feed that we're gonna do right off the bat, okay? And after that, we're gonna start discarding, which I'll explain tomorrow, and doing a little bit of a smaller feed. Okay, so we have a cup of flour in our jar, and then you're gonna do a 1/2 cup of room temperature filtered water. Right on in there. And then we're just gonna mix this up. I really like my little spatula here. Wooden spoons are also great. Just something, you try to aim not using metal. To be honest with you, I'm not really sure why you don't use metal, but that's how we're gonna do it. All right, so for me, this is looking a little shaggy, and I'm glad that this happened. That way you can kind of troubleshoot with me along the way. So different flours have different protein content and will yield a little bit of a different consistency. If it's humid in your home, it may be a little bit soupier. If it's not as humid, it may be a little bit stickier like my dough is today. So we're gonna add a little bit more water because this, our starting point, it's just too dry. So we'll do another 1/4 cup. Whoop. Try not to splash all over the place and get it all up in there. There we go. There we go. She's looking good. So that's your first test and trust in your gut on your starter, okay? Is watching the consistency of your starter. Now, we want it to be kind of like a thick, at this point, like a thick pancake consistency, pancake batter consistency, if you will. So as soon as I get this all incorporated fully, I will show you what that looks like. Now, if you're following my guide and you ran into that same issue to where it was a little dry, all you have to do is add a little bit more water at a time until you get the right consistency, which is gonna be kind of like a thick pancake batter-like consistency. And give yourself a little forearm workout while you're at it. All right, so this is kind of like what we're going for, okay? It's like a thick, maybe it's almost like muffin, but thick pancake batter-like consistency, okay? And then we're gonna scrape down the sides of our little jar, get her all at the bottom there. So as you just learned, a sourdough starter is just flour and water, okay? It's a combination, and then it's gonna start fermenting and capturing the natural yeast that is everywhere in our environment and growing good cultures and bacteria in here, and she is going to turn into an actual living thing. So you're gonna wanna loosely put your lid on here. If you have a screw-on lid, you can use a paper towel with a rubber band. You can just, if you have a ball jar, you can just put this little part on there, or you can put your screw-on lid and just barely screw it on, okay? So that it has a little bit of breathing room, if you will. And then we're gonna wanna mark our jar. Now, because this is a new sourdough starter, it's not gonna move right away. It's not gonna start rising right away. It's gonna take probably a few days at least to start doing that. But we're gonna mark our jar nonetheless on our starting point, okay? So I like using a rubber band for this. You can also use a dry erase marker if you want, just don't touch it. And then there we have it. So what we're gonna do is we are gonna put this on the counter. I need to name this one. You need to name yours. So over the next day until we feed her again in the morning, try to figure out a name. That's Eve. That little one back there is an Eve baby. Someone told me that I should name it Abel, which I thought was pretty funny. And then I'll try to think of a different name for this one and I will report back tomorrow. But until then, we're gonna leave this on the counter until tomorrow for 24 hours and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to feed it.